welcome to another edition of Copy That. My name's Dan Portnoy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. How are you doing? Did you get that mole looked at? Well, you should. It's important. All right. Well, here we are. Another episode of the Nonprofit Narrative Interviews. This week is Ken Mueller. Ken is a development director and professor in Pennsylvania, and he's going to be telling us all about his gig there and how he used the nonprofit narrative framework to help him. So there's past episodes. If this is the first one you're listening to, there's past episodes. There's a 41-page downloadable workbook if you're looking for some extra things to figure out how to tell a great story. And you can get it for free. You just go to portnoymediagroup.com. It literally will pop up. It's that simple. Or you can just grab it in the show notes because I'll put it there because it's crazy like that. Otherwise, what else is happening? Well, it's Halloween time, and I spent a lot of time this weekend looking at, putting together costumes. I'm kind of go overboard on the costumes. I don't know what happened. I taught myself how to sew a couple years ago, and it was all to help make better costumes for the kids, and it's turned out pretty great. Last year we did Squirrel Girl, Iron Spider, and Domino. And this year we're doing Fiona from Adventure Time, a character that was created for Star Wars, a smuggler creator, but there are like droids and stuff involved, and it's getting pretty crazy. And then, a barista named Carl. So that's also really fun. Baristo. And it's crazy. So anyway, and it's kind of awesome. I love it. And that's all of the things that are happening around here lately. And just, the general, it's nice. California is actually still on fire, but the temperature seems to be dropping. So that's fun to, get to enjoy that. All right. Well, you've heard me drone on for long enough. Now back to the episode. Thanks for joining us. Here's Copy That with Ken.
My name is Ken Mueller. My current position, a couple current positions actually, I'm in charge of marketing, PR, and development for a nonprofit called the Occupational Development Center, and we do and vocational training for adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities to help them find work. I also teach on the side. I teach college classes to both undergrads and continuing education, and with that, it's marketing classes. So a lot of times the people that end up in my classes, particularly the continuing education, are people who either own their own businesses or work for a local nonprofit, either a small one or a big one. So I get the opportunity to, work with a lot of individuals who do have, nonprofit experience, and they're just trying to figure out how do we do this better, especially when you go to the whole online space, when you're dealing with digital, learning how to use social media, learning what to do online. So there's a lot of good applications there.
Excellent. Did we meet before the book was out or as the book came out?
Yes, we met through a friend online, and I don't think the book was out at that point, and you shared with me a copy of the book, and it was a great tool. It has been and continues to be a great tool. I'm still using it with the current nonprofit that I'm working for, because I think it helps. The beauty of the book is it helps people get out of the typical nonprofit rut, which is, it's that time of year again, we have to ask for money. And, we'll go through the traditional means of asking through money, whether it's our golf tournament or our banquet or our annual appeal letter or whatever it is we do. They'll sort of fall into the same pattern and the same mode. And the problem is that, I work for an organization that traditionally has done the year-end appeal. Let's get in before the end of December so people can get their tax breaks and whatnot. The problem is that everybody's sending out those letters at the exact same time. So, I live here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm getting letters from not only every nonprofit locally or nationally that I've donated to in the past, but others that think that I might be a fit for them in giving. And I really don't have the time to open up all those letters. And, that's the nice thing about the nonprofit narrative, is that it helps work you out of that loop where you're spinning your wheels for the amount of money all the time.
Got it. And do you feel like the whole idea of thinking through it from a calendar standpoint has been beneficial? So you're thinking about relationships, and you're thinking about the story that you're telling in January, and not just like, oh, here comes September and I got to make sure that something's really solid.
Yeah, I mean, we use social media very heavily. We're constantly doing things on Facebook. We have our email list that we send out to, as well as our mailings that we send out to. And the idea of telling our story every day and giving people a sense not only of who we are and where we've come from, but the stories of the individuals we work with, the stories of the people who are involved with us peripherally. There's a lot of different stories constantly being told, so that, even though I may just post something on Facebook on a particular day, it's part of our story. It's part of the overall strategy of, people who come to us and see what we're doing online, get a better sense of who we are and who the people are that are behind this organization that's been around for 70 years.
Excellent. Is there anything that jumps out at you in terms of when either conveying this information to your class or as a practitioner that has really, kind of gone off the charts, whether it was like it really resonated with students or something of that nature, like any kind of increase in your giving or things like that?
From my perspective in my current position, I can't think of anything particularly with the students. In my current position, we're still in that building process, but I'm starting to see some of the changes. We are a 70-year-old organization that has done a lot of the same things for nearly 70 years. And I've only been here 2.5. Yeah, I've only been here 2.5 of those years. So thankfully, I was given permission when I was hired. I was given permission to very gently kill some sacred cows. We're an organization that gets a lot of small checks written in very scratchy, scrawly handwriting, where that the person who's sending you that check is, well north of 70 years old, and it's for $15, $20, $25. Well, you can't sustain on that. So we're trying to use our story in educating people about this whole online thing, and we want more online donors. And so tapping it, I mean, we have an incredible story from 1948 on of the people who started this organization. Most people out here now don't know our story. So by telling that, we're getting people excited, and we're starting to see more online giving. We're starting to see more giving from new constituents, which is really what we want, knowing that a lot of our existing constituents are on fixed incomes and aren't going to be able to, up the ante on that. We have, like I said, we have this interesting story about these two women who started our organization as a school in 1948 with just 2 students. And eventually they moved up to 4 students, and then it grew and grew and grew. Well, we have a guy who was our plumber here. He was a guy who just liked our mission and supported him. And as I was talking to him, he explained to me that the reason he had a heart for what we did here is that he had an aunt, his father's sister, who had intellectual disabilities, and he has fond memories of her. She has since passed. Well, as I'm going through our archives, I see a picture of this young girl, and the name is the same last name as him. And I said, his only connection with us was just, he had an aunt with an intellectual disability. He didn't have a specific connection with us as an organization. Well, here it turns out we discovered that his aunt was one of our first 4 students back in around 1950.
Oh, no way.
Clue. He had no clue. So in the process of telling this story and me communicating some of this stuff to him, he's sitting there and, we're having a Facebook conversation and he's like, you can't see me right now, but I'm in tears. And, this is a manly man, a guy who goes hunting and fishing and, the whole deal. And
Right.
because now our story is that much more real to him as an
Right.
individual. And he is not just a financial supporter, but just a big cheerleading supporter for us. He's helping us bring new people into the fold. He's helping us communicate our stories to other people because, he has such a great connection with us. And we're looking for more and more of those connections of people who really get it and understand what it is that we're trying to do. And so that his connection with us, not just through him, but through other people, has helped us, increase the giving, in certain areas. We have an annual 24-hour day of giving that happens here in Lancaster, and every nonprofit is out there, working, trying to do stuff. Sort of a competition, but it's a friendly competition.
Sure.
And our giving has increased dramatically, over the past 2-3 years. And he's responsible for some of that by, getting out there and beating the drum for us and issuing challenges to his friends and others, and by him telling his story and how it connects to us and to our story. So we're still on the very beginning of that, but I think, he has since come on our board, and I think that's going to be something that really helps, because traditionally we haven't had a strong giving board, but, he's lighting a fire under a lot of people in a good way.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even so much that you guys created in your storytelling actual like a hook for him to get involved in. He was already feeling that way. You just activated him by doing a little research.
Yes, exactly. And so, and a lot of people know that I have a commitment to telling our story. And, whether it's through our blog posts or social media or, even more traditional media things, we want to let people know the stories of not only our rich history, but the individuals here and the success stories of our individuals who come here. And as we try to help them find jobs in the community, we like to tell those stories because they're great stories. And we're, I know you are passionate about video, and that's an area that we're going to be moving into video a lot more in the next couple of years, based on some grants that we're looking for, solely for the purpose of telling our story. And we know that video is a compelling way to do that. We've been hampered by, financial issues.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's always a funds issue. Sure.
Yeah. We have to get equipment and or pay someone to do that for us, but we're headed in a really strong direction. It's like, it's exciting because we're at a point now where it's like, I know that I'm on the cusp of something that all of a sudden it's going to be like a thrill ride. All of a sudden things are going to start happening. And, the nonprofit narrative is a big part of that. Not only in how to tell our story, but how to get others to tell our story, and also in identifying, who we're telling our story to. And I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of nonprofits have, is they just tell their story without thinking about who's on the other end of that story. And for us, we've identified a number of different constituents because we're trying to tell our story to a variety of people, and we have to tell it in different ways to those people in order to get them to respond.
That's so great. You're not really encountering like people saying, oh, video's not worth it. It's just more of like, how do we get the money to do it?
Exactly. I'm given pretty much free reign. My biggest thing is I don't have carte blanche to spend all the money I want, so I have to find ways to justify it. When I came on board 2.5 years ago, they said, even before they hired me, they said, if we hire you, what's the first thing you would do? And I was like biting my tongue, and I'm like, okay, how do I gracefully say this? Because, having been a marketing consultant and working with people, who need new websites, sometimes you say, oh, you need a new website. And you're like, you find out that they're all proud of their website and their nephew did it or whatever, and they think it's the greatest thing. Well, we had a horrible website here. And I said, first thing I want to do is get you a new website. And thankfully, I saw a lot of heads nodding around the room. And it was the right answer. They had a very old website that was on a platform that was no longer supported by the people that developed the platform.
Oh, classic. Classic.
It was really ugly and non-functional. So I went out and I got bids and went to a number of local people and, put out the RFP and got bids. And I came up with a number and I was like, how the heck am I going to get this number past our board? Thankfully, they went with it. And we got a brand new website. And when I went to our designers, I said, seriously, what I want to do is I want to use this website to tell our story. And we have three main groups of constituents that we're targeting with this website. So we need to have three different approaches through the website. And, it worked. And that website has been a real godsend to us. And now I've got to go back and say, okay, I'm trying for some grants to get the video equipment. But once we get that stuff, the video equipment, the videos will become a stronger part of our storytelling arsenal and will be on the website and on social media and on our YouTube channel and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you're actually starting to think of yourself more as a content creator and kind of agency instead of just just some place where we bring in everybody to do that. You're doing it in house.
Yeah. No, yeah.
That's great.
We want to be creating strong content. Again, that furthers our mission, furthers the story that we're telling. I mean, we have the one grant that we're hoping to hear from any day. We should be hearing, literally, I'm surprised we haven't heard yet, is a very hefty grant that would really, it would push us and stretch us in ways that you can't even imagine and push us forward. In a lot of big ways. And it's a grant that we applied for last year and didn't get. And then when we called them and asked them why we didn't get it, they told us three little things that we could have corrected in about 15 minutes. So we reapplied and corrected those things and went above and beyond. So we're kind of hoping that it'll be an easy slam dunk this year. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that, hopefully the go ahead on that.
Oh, that's great.
Because it's big money for us. The one thing that I love about the book is that it's, when you talk about nonprofits and all the books out there, there's a lot of really dense, long, large, expensive books. This book is small. It's super user-friendly, readable. Mine's dog-eared with lots of highlights and things in it, my yellow highlighter. And it's inexpensive. So one of my goals here, and I have told this to other nonprofits to do this, and one of my goals here is to block out some time with our board and literally get our board to sit down, whether it's a day-long retreat or whatever, read through this book and work through it together so that we're all on the same page. Because what we do here is we have a very distinct story that we're telling, but I don't know that we're always on the same page. And this book will make it easier for us to sit down and say, this is the way we want to communicate to people about who we are and what we do. Because, when you work in our field, which is individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities, it's a field that has changed drastically over the years, carries a lot of baggage. There's a lot of lingo that we try to avoid and don't want to use. And, we're not all there necessarily. I know that even among the people who work here, the participants and stuff, I sometimes hear them using very outdated terminology and stuff.
Sure.
And I cringe, and I'm like, oh, we don't really want to use that phrase, or we don't want to use that term. And I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, from our participants to our staff to our board members. And I feel that at that point, if we are on the same page, it's going to make it so much easier to communicate that. So the nice thing about this book is, we can work through it together. We can find ways. I mean, we have a mission statement as a nonprofit that we've had for quite some time. And I feel it's time to update that. But I get looks from people like, well, that takes an act of the board, and that, they'll be nitpicking about every word and sentence and whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, we need to do it, and this book will help us find a way to do that.
Got it.
And help us in a very short group of sentences or a short paragraph. It'll help us really clarify who we are, both for ourselves and for people who might not understand what we do.
Right. Great. Well, that's great. Well, Ken, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me about that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good talking to you.
And that's Ken Mueller. Thank you, Ken, for being on the show and talking with me about your experience with the nonprofit narrative. There are a lot of resources for the nonprofit narrative, and if you know a nonprofit that is hurting, usually that happens in the case of like, please help us, we're trying to raise money, and that kind of thing. Let them know about these resources. They're free. They're literally free. It's personally helped me raise more than $250 million just in the last several years. And I know that it's been hundreds of millions of dollars more from people who send me information and emails, and usually with thanks, which is always, nice. But the point being, I want to get this information in their hands. So let them know, if you could, send them an email, send them this podcast, send them my information. I'd love to talk with them. There's a whole bunch of resources on my website for them, free stuff, just a whole bunch of free stuff. End of year email, how they should do it, just a lot of expertise there. So they can check it out at portnoymediagroup.com, or if you have any questions that are long form, you can email me directly, dan@portnoymediagroup.com, or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram @danportnoy. And you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. If you would leave a review about the show, that would be incredible. Show notes are at portnoymediagroup.com. That's our show. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week when we talk with Angie Albright. On behalf of the cast of thousands here at Copy That, my name's Dan Portnoy. Have a good one and be safe.